We continue with Psalm 81 in verse 6 and 7. God recounts the occasion that he rescued Israel with a testimony. Psalm 81:6. I relieved his shoulders of the burden. His hands were freed from the basket. Obviously, it is the God of Jacob and God's Son Jesus who is speaking. For Jehovah alone released Israel from the drudge of slave labor in Egypt. God gave them liberty. The people in bondage were compelled to carry clay and straw in baskets and to be mingled with the mold and molded into bricks. This is the same God that delivers you and me from the slavery of sin and righteousness. Romans 6:16 through 19 reads, Don't you realize that you became a slave of whatever you chose to obey? You can be a slave to sin, which leads to death, or you can choose to obey God, which leads to righteous living. Thank God, once you were slaves of sin, but now wholeheartedly obey this teaching that we have been given, which we have given you. Now you are free from your slavery to sin, and you become slaves to righteous living because of the weakness of your human nature. I'm using this illustration of slavery to help you understand all of this. Previously, you let yourselves be slaves to impurity and lawlessness, which led ever deeper into sin. Now you must give yourselves to be slaves to righteous living so that you will become holy. Verse 7 of 81 reads, You called in trouble, and I rescued you. I answered you in the hiding place of thunder. I proved you at the waters of Meribah. Selah. Selah means a musical pause. God heard his people's cries as slaves in Egypt and at the Gulf of Aqaba to the Red Sea when he opened a path through the waters for them to cross. The magnitude of these acts they should have annealed them to God. By these acts he proved that he would never forsake his children in need, and therefore we should never, ever forsake him. When we fail to trust God as Father of our adoption, the one who will provide and protect us, we deserve neither blessing nor protection. When the psalmist speaks of hiding Israel in the place of thunder, it must have brought to the mind of the Israelite singers the giving of the law in Exodus 19:16 through 20. It reads, On the third day when morning came, there was thunder and lightning, a thick cloud on the mountain, and a loud thunder sound. So the people in the camp shuddered. Then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was completely enveloped in smoke because the Lord came down on it with fire. Its smoke went up like smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain shook violently. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him in thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai at the top of the mountain. I'm sure that even the casual student of the Word knows the narrative about water from the rock. This was at Meribah, and the account is found in Exodus 17:3 through 7. But the people thirsted there for water and grumbled against Moses. They said, Why did you ever bring us out of Egypt to kill us, and our children and our livestock with thirst? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, What should I do with these people? In a little while they'll stone me. The Lord answered Moses, Go on ahead of the people and take some of the elders of Israel with you. Take the staff you struck the Nile within your hand and go. I'm going to stand there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. When you hit the rock, water will come out of it and people will drink. Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel. He named the place Massah and Meribah because the Israelites complained and because they tested the Lord, saying, The Lord is among us, or is the Lord among us or not? The God who is adored one day for his compassion and power is reviled on the next. When the people felt the next pangs of hunger and thirst, or when things are going not quite as smoothly as expected, the story of Israel is the same as that of our own church history, albeit in a different context. God has heard us. delivered us, liberated us, and too often our unbelief makes way for the wretched return of mistrust, murmuring, and rebellion. Great is our sin, great is the mercy of our God. Let us reflect them both and pause for a while. Selah.